Welcome to Pratham Test Prep YouTube channel. I am Ashish Bhargav and welcome to another episode of daily news analysis that we schedule from Monday to Friday at sharp 11:30 a.m. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are doing well and the many of you are preparing for the Diwali celebration and I wish you all the best. Okay, so as we know that in daily news analysis that we discuss the many important news that we extracted from the Hindu, Indian Express and many more newspaper and Supreme Court verdict, and that is very essential for the students who are preparing for the exam like CUET, CLAT and AILET exam. So if your voice is high, only few people will hear. If your thought is high, then many people will listen. So you inculcate all these thought process you have to develop. What you need to develop, what you have to develop such kind of articles which we will cover in this today newspaper. So here you have to work on the skills, and as we know that we have taken initiative at the questions of the day. So at the end of the YouTube session that we will ask 3 to 5 questions that is very essential for everyone. So here is the first article. City residents could be jailed by bursting firecrackers on the Deepavali. So people who buy and burst firecrackers in Delhi during Diwali will be fined 200 rupees and could be faced imprisonment up to 6 months. तो ध्यान रखें कि आप दिवाली पे इन चीज़ों को अवॉइड करें because there is a fine and penalty of rupees 200 and could be face imprisonment up to 6 months. So Environment Minister, our Environment Minister is Gopal Rai. Gopal Rai said those at the supplier end will face a 5,000 fine and imprisonment up to, we can say, 3 years for storage, production and sale of crackers. So as we know that as per the NGT guidelines, National Green Tribunal is also that we can say to avoid the firecrackers. So initially what we need to keep in mind, what is the green crackers and what are the consequences if we have done. So let's start with this. Here is the green crackers. So firecrackers that have less dangerous and less harmful chemicals than conventional ones, being developed by CSIR, National Environment Energy Research Institute, production and approved by Petroleum and Explosive Safety Organization, PSO. So we have to understand what exactly is green crackers that we have discussed, and green because they have a chemical formulations that produce water molecules. They substantially reduce emissions levels and absorb dust. Is basically light and sound show that produces lower emissions, and it reduce 30-35% of reduction in a particular matter, PM, nitrous oxide and sulfur oxide. Crackers with lower aluminium and to reduce emissions substantially. Anar or flower pots, as we know in Diwali, is using eco-friendly material that can be reduced particle matter of 40%. Basically, as we know that such kind of things that we crack in the Diwali. Basically, crackers that eliminates use of ash of desiccants, and firecrackers without antimony, lithium, mercury, arsenic, lead, and directed by PSO last year. And e-crackers is also being developed by the CSIR, Central Electronic Engineering Research Institute, and CSIR, which means Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. So e-crackers also developed by the CSIR. Okay. E-crackers is similar, like we can say having a two anode is going to be a collision and they start cracking it. It sounds like that we are burning crackers, but it not exactly. So that is good for our environment also. So firecrackers, if we talk about the firecrackers में कलर कौन कौन से होते हैं, रेड में आप देखें यहाँ पे स्ट्रोंटियम सॉल्ट्स होता है. यहाँ पे स्ट्रोंटियम सॉल्ट, इसमें जो आपको रेड कलर आपको दिखती है अब क्रैकर्स के अंदर वो होती है हमारे स्ट्रोंटियम सॉल्ट, स्ट्रोंटियम नाइट्रेट, स्ट्रोंटियम कार्बोनेट, स्ट्रोंटियम सल्फेट. ऑरेंज कलर जितने आप देखते हैं उसमें कैल्शियम सॉल्ट्स यूज़ की जाती है, कैल्शियम कार्बोनेट, कैल्शियम क्लोराइड, कैल्शियम सल्फेट. येलो कलर जब भी आप देखते हैं क्रैकर्स के अंदर तो इट इज़ यूज ऑफ सोडियम सॉल्ट, सोडियम नाइट्रेट, सोडियम क्लोरेट एंड सोडियम क्रायोलेट. ग्रीन कलर्स बेसिकली बेरियम सॉल्ट्स, barium nitrate, barium carbonate, barium chloride, barium chlorate, and blue color is copper salts, copper chloride, copper carbonate, copper oxide. and purple color that we is a combined copper and strontium compound, and silver is white hot magnesium and aluminum, and white is basically burning metals like magnesium, aluminum, titanium. These all metals very harmful if the environment is concerned. While go to the further, air pollution created by the firecrackers. Firing crackers increase the concentration of dust and pollutant in the air. After firing, the fine dust particle gets settled in the surrounding surfaces, which are packed with chemical like copper, zinc, sodium, lead, magnesium, and cadmium, and pollutant like oxide of sulfur and nitrogen. These invisible yet harmful particles affect the environment and in turn put your health at stake. Harmful element used that copper like irritates the respiratory tract, cadmium that leads to anemia by reducing the capacity of blood to carry oxygen. The copper that we, as you know that after the in the Diwali celebration, as we can see that many times that we see that like there is a problem to a respiratory, सांस लेने में आपको दिक्कत होती है, किसकी वजह से होती है? कॉपर की वजह से होती है. कैडमियम जो हम फायर क्रैकर्स में यूज करते हैं दैट लीड्स टू एनीमिया बाय रिड्यूसिंग द कैपेसिटी ऑफ ब्लड टू कैरी ऑक्सीजन. तो लैक ऑफ ऑक्सीजन जो होती है आपको इसमें कैडमियम की वजह से जो फायर क्रैकर्स में यूज की जाती है. जिंक जो यूज करते हैं कैन कॉज मेटल फ्यूम फीवर एंड इंड्यूस वॉमिटिंग. आपको इसमें एक काइंड ऑफ एंग्जाइटी टाइप से फीलिंग आती है. एट वी नो दैट अगर आप बहुत ज़्यादा फायर क्रैकर्स जहाँ पे पोल्यूशन ज़्यादा है, स्मोक ज़्यादा है वहाँ पे, तो उस केसेस में आप देखे होंगे, देखा होगा आपने. लेड हार्म्स द नर्वस सिस्टम एज वेल. Magnesium metal fume fever is caused by magnesium fume. Sodium, it is highly reactive element and cause burns when it combines with moistures. इसमें देखा होगा आप दिवाली की वजह स्मॉग होती है, तो that is widespread we can see in the Delhi NCR area just because of the sodium as well. And what is the issue in new one? So barium content. The chemical analysis of samples of finished and semi-finished firecrackers and raw materials taken from the manufacturer showed barium content. So barium content, that the court stated that loose quantity of barium were purchased from the market. So also firecrackers cover did not show the manufacturer of expiry date. That is the main concern. There is nowhere mentioned the firecrackers when it would be expired. So that is the issue of barium as well. So barium nitrate, which emits green flame when a crackers is lit. जब crackers को आप जलाते हो तो उसमें आप देखा green flames निकलती हैं just because of barium nitrate. And is a metal oxide that increases both air and noise pollution. There is no clarity on whether barium nitrate can actually be used or not, because there is no ingredients is used in the packet of the crackers. This is the main concern about, we can say, if you talk about the firecrackers. Now the second article, China again blocked 2 proposal on Pak terrorist at UNSC, United Nations Security Council. So China once again blocked proposal by India and the US to designate Pakistan-based terrorist on the UN Security Council. So as we know that Security Council, there are 5 permanent members with the power of veto powers and 10 non-permanent members. As we know that India is a non-permanent member of UNSC. So UNSC basically United Nations Security Council. It is one of the 6 main organ of United Nations, and the permanent headquarters of UN is New York City, which is known to be a, we can say, New York is also known to be a economic capital of USA. Administrative capital is Washington DC, where DC, which means District of Columbia. Similarly, that we can say the UNSC headquarters is in New York City, which is the capital of, we can say, economic capital of USA. And location that is Westminster, London. What is the primary responsibility of UNSC? That we can say that to maintain international peace and security. And the first session when it was held, that is 17th Jan 1946. 17th Jan 1946, the first session of UNSC was held. So what we need to keep in mind for your exam point of view, how many permanent members? 5 is the power of veto. There are 10 permanent, non-permanent members, and India is the non-permanent members of UNSC. So General Assembly, there are 123 members, 1 country, 1 vote recommends, that we can see. So what is the members of UNSC? International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court, Economic and Social Councils, that is the organs of General Assembly, UNGA. So this is all about the UNSC. While further moving, third article is talking about RBI and accountability. So as we know that the inflation is day by day is increasing in our country. So what is the concern that So as we know that inflation that we have discussed in many articles, what is the cause of inflation? There are many tools that is used by the RBI to curb the inflation, that is RBI monetary policy. There are two tools, that is quantitative and qualitative tools. One more thing that you need to keep in mind, that if you talk about the inflation, there are two tools using by the RBI to measuring the inflation, that is the wholesale price index and consumer price index. And wholesale price index, earlier it was used by the Reserve Bank of India. Now it is used by the consumer price index. So that is a monetary policy committee, and in that monetary policy committee, the RBI governor is an ex officio member of the monetary policy committee that submit the report within 3 months quarterly to the government of India. So under the flexible inflation targeting regime, the monetary policy decision making the vested with the monetary policy committee, but the implementation falls in RBI domain. So this article, first we need to understand what exactly monetary policy committee. So under section 45 ZB of amended, central government is empowered to constitute a 6-member monetary policy committee, MPC. What is the objective? Further, section 45 ZB lays down the monetary policy committee shall determine the policy rate required to achieve the inflation target, and that is below by 7%. The decision of monetary policy committee shall be binding on the bank. So as we know that there are many tools to curb the inflation in our country, that repo rate, reserve repo rate, cash reserve ratio. So RBI governor as its ex officio chairman of deputy governor in charge of monetary policy committee, 3% to be appointed by the central government. So that person of ability, integrity and standing, having knowledge and experience field of economics and banking and finance. So this article that we will discuss in detail. So as we know that the RBI now accountable of consumer price index, as we know that, and why RBI using consumer price index? The reason behind that, wholesale price index is only talking about goods, and consumer price index is talking about goods and services as well. Goods and services as well. This is a major difference why RBI is taking consumer price index. So under the flexible inflation targeting, as we know that RBI is accountable of CPI inflation exceeds 6% of 3 consecutive quarters and should report to the center for the reason for failure to achieve the inflation target. Remedies action proposed by taking by the bank, and estimate of time period within the inflation target shall be achieved. So as we know that since retail inflation has remained over 6% consecutively for 3 quarters since January, the RBI for the first time has to send the report to the government. And who is RBI governor? Shaktikanta Das has said that the report is privileged communications. The central bank will now make it public. Which part of the report could be confidential that stakeholder cannot visualize. While further moving that we can say the Russian-Ukraine war, which disrupted the supply of essential commodities, was a major reason for supply shock, as most central banks delayed taking action against repeated supply shocks, inflation because generalized. And thus, the stimulus, we can say, package implementation during the pandemic are not being seen as a factor of current inflation. So if we look at it very carefully, this article is talking about the RBI is fast approaching level of neutral policy rate, which may not be sufficient to the control inflation unless the real policy rate becomes positive when forwarded guidance is perceived. So in recent post-policy media interaction, the RBI governor had indicated that retail inflation may be close to the target in a 2-year cycle. So this is all about talking about inflation and how the RBI monetary policy is working on this. And as we know that the stakeholders will not be surprised if the monetary policy committee commits to taking a stage contingent measures that are difficult to precisely spell out upfront. This is all about the article is talking about. Next article is very important, centered to promote destination in 15 states as a part of Swadesh Darshan 2. Swadesh Darshan 2. And what is Swadesh Darshan? As we know that there is a schemes of Prasad, PRASAD, that is launched by the government of India to promote the local, we can say local monuments, which is to attract the travelers which is coming from another country, Prayagraj, Chitrakoot, and Gwalior are among the cities identified in 15 states across the country to be promoted as a part of India new domestic tourism policy, which moves away from theme-based tourist circuits and focused on reviving of destination tourism. The initiative is being taken as a part of first phase of Swadesh Darshan 2, which will be kicked off in January. So 15 states are part of first phase, which include Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra. And 2 destinations from each state have been identified sources in the Ministry of Tourism to the media. Now, what is Swadesh Darshan schemes? Ministry of Tourism have revamped its Swadesh Darshan scheme as Swadesh Darshan 2.0 SD 2.0 with an aim to develop sustainable and responsible infrastructure at destination. So what is Swadesh Darshan schemes? So when it was launched 2014 to 15 for integrated development of theme-based tourist circuits, Buddhist circuit, coastal circuit, and it is 100% centrally funded and efforts are made to achieve convergence with other schemes of central and state government. If we talk about centrally funded, which means that the 100% funded by the central government itself. If we talk about we can say center sponsored scheme, which means that center sponsored, which means there is some stake that is taken by that is some percentage that have to pay by the state government, and that we can say that if we talk about northeast area in our country, so there are many percentage that are taken by the central government itself for the promoting for those states. So that is centrally funded efforts are made to achieve convergence with other schemes. Now, what is the significance? So under the schemes of Swadesh Darshan and Prasad, as I told you, Prasad, which means pilgrimage, rejuvenation and spiritual heritage augmentation drive, the Ministry of Tourism provides financial assistance to state and union territories for the development of tourism infrastructure. And what are the objectives? To position tourism as a major engine of economic growth and job creation, develop circuits having tourist potential in a planned and prioritized manner, promote cultural and heritage value of the country to generate livelihood in the identified regions, enhancing the tourist attractiveness in sustainable manner by developing world-class infrastructure in the circuit destinations. So basically that we can see the Swadesh Darshan and Prasad that is important for the attracting to the foreign people. It will boost up and strengthen the economy as well. And there are major themes have been identified for tourism under the schemes: cultural heritage, adventure tourism, ecotourism, wellness and rural tourism, beach tourism, cruise, ocean and inland tourism. Next is talking about Tamil Nadu launches mission to save critically endangered vultures. So as we know, why government are promoting to vultures? Because the reason it will help into the making the food wave and food chain. If it was disrupted, then we can say that it will disrupt the entire food chain. And as we know that the vulture are exposed to a drug when the consume carcasses of animal, that is diclofenac. एंड डाइक्लोफिनेक शॉर्टली इसको बहुत सारे कंट्री ने बैन किया था डाइक्लोफिनेक को. एज वी नो दैट ये क्या करते हैं जब अब मैं बताता हूँ इसको थोड़ी सी चीज़ें, ये डाइक्लोफिनेक कैसे इनके बॉडी में पहुँचती है. जैसे आपने देखा होगा कि जो एक नॉर्मल काव होती है, गाय होती है, वो यूजुअली 2 से 3 लीटर मिल्क देती है, बट उसे हमें ज़्यादा मिल्क चाहिए होता है फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ गेटिंग मोर मनी. तो उसमें हम इंजेक्शन यूज़ करते हैं, दैट इज नॉट टू डाइक्लोफिनेक. और इससे क्या है उनके उस जब वो गाय 8 साल 9 साल 10 साल के बाद जब वो उनकी डेथ होती है तो उसके जो जब उसके लाश को खाएगा कौन? वल्चर. उनके बॉडी में डाइफ्लोनिक, उनसे क्या होता है वल्चर की किडनी खराब हो जाती है. सो वल्चर डाई फ्रॉम किडनी फेलियर विद इन डेज ऑफ एक्सपोजर टू डाइक्लोफिनेक कंटामिनेटेड टिश्यू विद पोस्टमार्टम फाइंडिंग ऑफ एक्सटेंसिव विस्कल गॉट. So alarm at a 96% decline in India vulture population between 1993 and 2003, the central government put into place 2 action plans to protect the species and national level. Government को क्यों promote करती है? As I told you that they do not want to we can say to disruption of food chain and food web. As we know that vultures play a key role as nature scavengers, keeping the environment clean, their social and ecological significance cannot be underestimated. So this is what about is article, but if you go to the depth, as we know that conserving vultures, according to recent data, vultures mostly forage outside protected areas, and if threats such as poison list carcasses are removed from these places. What are the finding of report that we have already discussed? Now, as we know that name of the vulture species, that oriental white-backed vulture and long-billed vulture. There are many vultures type that will not ask to you, but you have to keep in mind. Just only look it very carefully. They will not ask you the INCN status as well. Now, we have to work fast to solve challenges in the space tech, that is Modi. PM launch mission Def Space. As we know that Defense Expo is these days going on. That would be held in Gandhinagar. Defense Expo is in Gandhinagar, which is the capital of Gujarat. So PM launched mission Defense Space to push the innovation solution for the 3 services in the space domain. So in the ambitious effort to develop innovative solutions for 3 services in the space domain through the Indian industry and startups, and PM launched mission Defense Space. So under mission Defense Space, 75 challenges are being opened to get innovative solution based on the defense requirements in the space domain, the Defense Ministry person said. Next one, Rustam 2 UAV to complete users trials by August 2023. As we know that is indigenous medium altitude long endurance male unnamed aerial vehicle UAV, which means unnamed aerial vehicle. Unnamed, that we can say aerial vehicle developed by the Defense Research and Development Organization, that is DRDO. Defense Research Development Organization, expected to complete all users trials by August 2023. Defense official, it has to be claimed. 4 prototypes Rustam 2 are currently flying. 5 production models will be manufactured by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited (HAL), and that same company HAL has launched by the, as we know that, the first indigenous helicopter of defense, that is known to be a Prachand. Now, China total trade surplus with India surplus $1 trillion. So, as we know that the current account deficit problem is in our country. These surpluses as current account deficit, which means that we can say in simple and lucid language, what is current account deficit? Current account deficit, which means we can say, is simple that we can say like if the country is taking more import rather than exports. अगर हम एक्सपोर्ट को क्या करते हैं, एक्सपोर्ट्स बहुत कम है, इंपोर्ट बहुत ज़्यादा है, तो हम सिंपल लैंग्वेज में कहेंगे करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट. सो as we know that like these surpluses are consistent and not addressed over a period of time, this leads to the problem of a current account deficit for India. So India exports to China, however, shrank 35% and accounted for only $9.57 billions of the trade. Two-way trade, China quarterly trade data, which shows that the favorable trade balance that China has enjoyed with India since bilateral commerce began to boom in early 2000s. So the trade gap, we can say, has particularly widened in the past decade. In 2021, annual two-way trade crossed $100 billion for the first time. So China trade with India is lopsided, and in this period China had favorable balance of trade that has crossed $1.2 trillion. So this article was defined those things. A new lease of life for climate action, as we know that COP, and we can say our world today is turmoil, facing multiple mutually reinforcing crises even as we mount a fragile recovery from COVID-19 pandemic. we fuel a devastating energy, food, and cost living crisis. And for the first time since it began over 30 years ago, the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, Human Development Report has warned that global human development measures have declined. So measure we have to think about like Human Development Index HDI is released by UNDP, which is United Nations Development Programme. And in this article is talking about like COP27 next month. India set to assume G20 presidency weeks later, followed by the halfway mark to Agenda 2030 next year. As we know that UN India and 26 entities are proud and committed partners for the mission of help give new lease of life to climate action. This is all about the article is. As we know that in this article that is very important, there has never been a better time for India's leadership on climate action at home and the international stage. And as we know that UN Sustainable Development Goal that also to reduce the carbon footprint for the country and as well as the world. The Lifestyle for Environment Life mission resonates with the global climate justice, and India has rightfully called for. So this is all about the main crux of the passage. So if we talk about the context, Union Minister of Power and New Renewable Energy launched Agni Tattva Energy for Life campaign to create awareness for the core concept of Agni Tattva, an element that is synonymous with energy and among the 5 elements of Panchamabhut. The Panchamabhut comprised earth, water, fire, air and space, Akash. And as we know that the missile that is launched by the Prithvi, Agni, Akash, that is also. And what do we know about the Agni Tattva campaign? So it would provide a platform to deliberate upon the learning and experience of subject expert and specialist and explore solution for sustainable future for all. So this is all about the article. What is the objective? The mission plans to create and nurture a global network of individuals, namely pro-planet people, P3, and P3 will have a shared commitment to adopt the promote environmentally friendly lifestyle. And what is the other related initiative? National Afforestation Program, NAP, National Mission for Green India, GIM, National Action on Climate Change, NAPCC, and National Biodiversity Action Plan. And now it's time to questions of the day. And that is very important for the students who are preparing for the exam. And I hope that that question would be really help you to solving in your real exam, because you have to develop such kind of temperament not in the same day when you are going to appear in an examination. And one more thing that you need to keep in mind, that if you daily basis if you solve 3 to 5 questions, that will be very important, because until and unless if you are not able to solve the questions, and एग्ज़ाम में भी ऐसे टाइम आ सकते हैं कि आपको कई बार आप वहाँ पे क्वेश्चंस का आंसर नहीं पता हो, आपने कहीं से कवर नहीं करा हो, कुछ करंट अफेयर्स के क्वेश्चंस हो उसमें, तो आपको यहीं से वो आदत डेवलप करनी होगी कि आपको कैसे क्वेश्चंस को सॉल्व करनी है. सो हियर द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन, which of the following animal is often referred as the ghost of mountains? Tiger, clouded leopard, snow leopard and Himalayan thar. Take your time and try to solve. So obvious the answer would be which one? C. Snow leopard, often referred as ghost of mountain because of its coat and helps its blend in a snowy, rocky environment. So that's why C would be the right answer. In the last few years, the government has undertaken which are the following reforms in the telecom sector in India? First, allowed 100% FDI in the sector, enable in-flight Wi-Fi, wireless fidelity, allowed deferred payment from telecom operators, deregulated BPOs and call center. So D would be the right answer. Key policy intervention and technological advancement have made India the second largest telecom market in the world. Second largest telecom market in the world. The sector is one of the highest contribution of India GDP. The last few years, the government has allowed 100% FDI in the sector, largely deregulated by BPOs and call centers, enabled in-flight Wi-Fi, and allowed deferred payment from telecom operators due to their strained financial condition. Now, the Department of Telecom has released the draft Indian Telecommunication Bill 2022, aimed at reforming existing telecom laws and regulations and making them future ready for public comment. The term grey zone operations is associated with early warning system of tropical storms, cyber warfare, non-proliferation of nuclear weapons, strategic intervention to prevent malnutrition. In the recent in the news, grey zone operation. And is that is from the cyber warfare. Yes, grey zone operations which fall outside traditional concept of conflict have become the new battleground, especially in the regard of cyber warfare. Grey zone operations are already beginning to be employed to undermine the vitals of state functioning, a trend likely to grow. The convergence of emerging technologies alongside new hybrid uses pose several challenges to nation and institution. Next one, India's foreign exchange reserve is composed of, that's supposed to you because you have a good command over economy, so you must know foreign currency assets, gold reserve, special drawing rights with the International Monetary Fund IMF, reserve trunk position with International Monetary Fund. So what is of Indian foreign exchange reserve is composed of? Obvious the all. Yes, reserve include foreign currency assets, gold, special drawing rights with the International Monetary Fund and reserve trunk position. These external assets controlled by the monetary authority are used to absorb shocks during time of crisis, provide confidence to the market that external obligation can be met, and build capacity for intervention in foreign exchange markets. And India reserves are by and large a product of capital flows, funds through foreign investment, borrowings, and not so much from the current account, which means net income earned through exports of goods and services and remittances, which is currently in deficit. And the last one, Raidu Bharosa Kendra are the first of its kind C2 cells, single window services centers for farmers, have been set up in which state? So answer will be Ethiopian delegation was in Andhra Pradesh to study first of its kind Ridu Bharosa Kendra RBK, set up the first time in the country. The RBK are unique seeds to cells, single window services centered for farmers that have been set up across the state. They are one-stop solution to all farmers' needs and grievances. RBK sell pre-tested quality seeds, certified fertilizers and animal feed. Farmers can purchase on hire farm equipment and even sell for product at privileged MSP minimum support price in the RBK. And this is all about the YouTube session for the day, is guys. And I hope you enjoyed this YouTube session a lot. If you are new in this channel, please subscribe and share to your friends and family group so that they can take advantage. And if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section as well. We'll meet you on the after Diwali. Wish you a happy Diwali once again to each and every subscriber and apart from subscriber also. Thank you so much for joining this class. Take care, bye bye, and we'll meet you after Diwali. Thank you so much, bye bye, and take care once again.